Hello everybody, Gerone Wright here, and once again you're joining me here on my Gerone Wright YouTube channel here on YouTube. In this video we're in space and I have an image up here. There's Earth right there, and these are I don't know if this is an object of this is possibly a planet. I don't know what this is. Okay, it's nothing, no description here, but for the sake of this video, let's just give this Earth. And let's just give this a let this be an object, being an asteroid or an object that is in a colliding path with Earth. Okay. Let's just say that science has identified this as a Earth-threatening object, and this object is going to be striking Earth. Let's just say 100 years from now, or maybe a little closer, maybe 40 years from now, 30 years from now, or whatever. But this object has a direct trajectory path to collide with Earth, and it's going to look like something like this here. This is let's say a straight line from this guy to Earth. Okay, this object is going to hit Earth, and this is going to be almost like a doomsday, not for the planet Earth, but pretty much for life forms as we know it. It's going to change everything about our weather, about everything. It's going to be massive destruction, mass scale destruction. So something needs to be done. This is going to be my model for how I can stop this object from colliding with Earth. Okay. There would be several things that I would actually try first through my paranormal experience and encounter, which gives me the knowledge to understand what is happening with these with such occurrences in space and why they take place and what could be done. To my knowledge, I don't believe that nobody has discussed this type of approach, and but me, I googled a couple of having the idea in my head. I wanted to make sure that my idea was original. And I googled a couple scenarios to see what were the best ideas out there. There were several different ideas that people have, okay, out there. But anyway, mine is going to be uniquely different from the rest. The first thing that I would do, there would be two approaches that I would take if I knew that this object in about 40, 50, 100 years was going to collide with Earth. There would be two things that I would do. The first I would take is that I would not entertain the idea about blowing this object up or interrupting and interfering with this object. This object, let's just say that this is one of the larger parts of the objects that could hit our planet in space, from space, and this is probably a 60 square mile wide, or 6 square, let's say not 60, a 6 square mile wide object that is in a trajectory path of colliding with Earth. I would not take and send nothing out and nuke it and turn around and cause for it to break in several pieces, and instead of us having to worry about just one object striking the planet, we have to now worry about 5, 6, or maybe 20 or 30 other pieces hitting the planet at different other times. Okay, I would not do that. Okay. Or if this object had a chance of missing our planet, one of the objects that we now cause the disturbance of would now be in a direct path where this object could have missed. I would not do that, okay? But this is what I would do. The first thing that, the idea that there would be two different ideas that I would have to effectively off-course this object from colliding with Earth. The first would be, I would consider the nuclear approach, meaning sending nuclear devices out to intercept this object way far out in space, nothing close to Earth. Basically, what I would do is I would safely get these nuclear objects through the atmospheric layerings of our planet. How I would do that is I would send them out from different parts of the world. Everyone would have to get involved. All of the countries that's in these space exploration programs: China, Japan, America, England. There's like 6 or 7 major ones that Germany. There's a couple of Russia. There's a couple different places that are in these major space programs that are in space exploration. Each part of these countries would actually have a device, a part of this program that would go and be involved in this. That no country should be having, since this is a world threatening scenario. All these countries should come together as a team. Each part of these countries should launch a piece of a nuclear bomb, different parts, not nothing that can, something that would make a safe program that was calls for these elements of this bomb to be safely sent out through the atmospheric layerings of our planet. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, could you imagine these clowns sending out a nuclear bomb and the thing exploding, like we seen happen with one of the shuttles? I think it was the Columbia or whatever, explode before it actually got through the atmospheric layers, and then blow a hole in our atmospheric layers of our planet. And that would be the end right there. That would be worse than the object from space coming in and destroying us. My thing is that pieces of the bomb should be taken from each country, launched off of each country from each continent, okay, and then perhaps assembled later in space. They meet together, assemble, and then come out. So we have our bomb in space that was actually sent out in different parts from off of Earth, which was actually a safe way to get this bomb out through the atmospheric layers. I wouldn't just send one bomb. I would send actually several bombs, just in case the first failed. I would send several bombs, and in fact, you're going to need several bombs for my plan anyway. So let's say we have these bombs. I send them out in space. Then I would take, and this is where I would go with this. I would not interfere. I would send my bombs out to this object, to this asteroid that was in a direct path going towards Earth. And I would take, and based on the scientific knowledge that I have on which approach that this object, this asteroid was coming at to Earth, I would take the easiest place and trajectory that I can off course this, and what I would do is I would detonate my bombs. Let's say that this was coming in on a high approach to Earth. Whatever angle would create the easiest path of resistance to set off my bomb to cause this object to miss Earth, whether it would be down below, up on top, or off to the side. And I'm pulling away from the side. You know what I mean? You have four angles that you can take and cause this object here to miss Earth. You can go either below, atop, or off to either side. Based on the scientific knowledge and study of this object and its trajectory path, I would take the approach to where the easiest miscourse that I can cause a miscourse of Earth, a missed interaction with Earth, I would take and disrupt the trajectory path of this object. Let's just say, for example, that this object was coming off to the left side of Earth. I would set off my bombs to help that object be pushed away from that. I would set off a bomb here off to the side, which would cause a wave energy, a pulse wave energy, just the wake of the bomb being detonated, not to cause no disruption to this object at all. I do not want to dislodge nothing off the object at all. Basically, what I want to do is push it off of its immediate trajectory path with colliding with Earth. And all I want to do is just create a wake. Imagine a body of water, and a boat is going on a straight path in that body of water, and just by steering, making waves, that's it, the boat is pushed off course, and then it has to be stirred back on the course again if the pilot wants to do that. We're assuming that there's no pilots in these things here. However, that's all we want to do is make waves in space to cause for a movement for the trajectory path of that asteroid to be dislodged. That's it. We can set off as many explosions as we possibly can between here and Earth, but not too close to where these explosions would actually cause harm or cause a problem, an environmental problem to that of our world, with weather, oceans, or anything, or for any of these, any of the debris to come back onto our world. So we have all out here to play with this thing. If in fact we were convinced that this object was on a trajectory path, with a colliding path with our world, to take and move it, you just set off a bomb to either side, and in a distance to where the bomb itself does not cause the asteroid no harm. Basically, all you're doing is using the pulse energy, the wave energy from the bomb explosion to push this thing off of its trajectory, pass with the Earth. That's it. And you can blow it off course to go up over top to miss it, down below to miss the planet, or off to either side just by using wave energy. The next idea that I actually had was that I believe that these objects to be on any type of trajectory path or in its movement, that there must be some type of intelligence behind the object in motion. Let's just say that whatever it is, whether it's a comet, whether it's a meteor, or whether it's an asteroid. Okay, let's say it could be gravitational pull or whatever, but even that is some type of intelligence behind it. And again, there could be some, just like when you have a player, a football team, and you have the player throwing a football and somebody blocks his hand that's throwing it. You have pass interference, or you have some type of interference, a deflection, when you have somebody block a person from catching the football just at the touchdown line. I mean, you have a deflection of the pass. Anything that causes for this object to be deflected. So having said that, there has, to my knowledge, been no type of science that actually took and tried, maybe perhaps to see if these objects respond to sound. And where I'm going with this is that I'm stating sound waves. In my mind, through my paranormal experience and encounter, that I believe that this object, let's just say this is an asteroid, that these objects may be able to be, their trajectory paths might be able to be disrupted by sound waves. Meaning that just the ringing of a bell or the sounding of a bell in space may cause this object to turn from off of its path of flight and go in the opposite direction of that of the sound, or in the direction of the sound that it is hearing. Just imagine that just a small bell in your hand, that somebody for dinner call, we're out just tingling this thing, and based on the sound waves, that the sound vibrations that were created, which may be magnified or dampened in space, because we don't know, nobody has rung no bell in space, that just that ting-a-ling-a-ling, 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 that this asteroid relates to as some type of form of communication to follow. Now, let's go on a larger scale. Let's go to your church steeple bells. The big dong, 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 the bigger bells. The biggest bell that you could possibly get into space and start ringing this thing, which causes for this object to respond to. Would it create vibrations? A vibration? Would that bell create a vibration strong enough to create a magnitude of like a wave, the largest scale of wave that is here on our planet, and cause for this thing to be dislodged? Or will the asteroid to be dislodged? Or will this ringing of this bell cause for this object to follow? Create an energy, a force of energy, that just by the ringing of a bell, ding, 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 this object will follow. through vibrations or through the energy that is created from the sounding of a bell? Will it take and send this thing off of course if its trajectory course, or would it actually cause it to follow? Almost like that in the sense of a Pied Piper, or the Pied Piper scenario, where the Pied Piper calls all of these rats, all of these snakes to follow him to where they went off of course. Do you get the picture, people? So the likelihood, no one has never sounded a bell in space. So imagine the ideal just behind that. Imagine the idea behind making a sound, period, in space, which is magnified. Let's just say a little teeny bell ringing. It is magnified in a way that it causes for a wave of energy to be transmitted onto an object, which would cause it to be destroyed. Imagine that. Imagine the sounding of a bell, and you have an asteroid out in space. You go out there and you just ring a tiny bell, a glass bell, and the wave vibration of that is actually magnified times 1 billion times, 1 trillion times. And by the time it hits this object is caused to collapse. That's it, disintegrated. You don't know because it was never tried, never experimented. You know, I always say to myself that sometimes the simplest approach to dealing with a scenario is sometimes the best approach. And in most cases, the most logical approach. So this is my concept for 2 scenarios which I would utilize to deflect an object, which is this asteroid right here. We're calling this an asteroid, which is on a direct path, trajectory path with Earth, that I would try first. I would try both of them while I was moving my bombs into position to be detonated. Because we're 40 years out, 50 years out, 60 years out, whatever. While I was moving my bombs into place to be detonated, I would have my other ships going out to try sound waves. I would utilize sound waves, and I would try the nuclear bombs as a backup. Now, the other thing about all of this is that there could be some form of communication. Imagine just being able to take and have an object come in distance with this and say, hey, and try talking with it. Hey, we are earthlings. I mean, you talk to deities and everything else that you don't see, but yet you communicate with, right? Gods and mythical beings and everything else, in hopes that all of this would stop from happening. Imagine being on a megaphone, a voice on a megaphone, a recorded voice. Hey, you are in flight, you are in a trajectory path that where you're going to collide with our world in X amount of time. Could you please change your trajectory path? Talk to it. Simply talk to it. This thing may respond or may not respond. Talk to it. Everything in space is alive. We are. So we must assume that everything in space is alive just as we are, just in another way, in another form. So these are ideas, logical approaches that we could take with this. My name is Gerone Wright. I'm going to end that video there. I think that I covered everything on it. So my position to stop this asteroid, or change this asteroid from hitting our world, the trajectory, take it off of its trajectory path. Here's the object. This object is going to collide with our world in 60, 70 years. To change it, basically all I would do is I would take and hit and set off, use either sound waves or nuclear bomb waves to send it off of its path safely, without never actually striking the object or attacking the object, just sending it off of its course. Create turbulences to where it hits a bump in the road, and or several bumps in the road, and it gets pushed out of the direction. Now, another thing about all of this too is that if we go through all of this, because this is an expensive process, is that not just to just send it off from where it's going to miss our world, and then have to worry about this thing cycling back around the next cycle that it comes, maybe 200 or 300 years from now when it comes back again. Take this thing while you're out there doing all this blowing and all of this, see if you can blow this thing clean out of the gravitational pull that it and field that it is actually in, trajectory field that it is in, and see if you can blow it into somebody else's trajectory field. In other words, the ring of containment that it is traveling in. That's what I call them, ring of containments. I call them ring of containments because through my analogy of what space is doing and how space is functioning. So through this ring of containment, which they call it, it's orbits that it takes, because everything in space is going in circles and cyclination circles. So you take it and blow it out of that and blow it into something else, into another. Take it out of its orbit, blow it out, not in, blow it out. So you just take and keep sending off these explosions until you push this thing out of the trajectory flight path that it is actually normally in, and you're sending it somewhere else. You can just keep making explosions until it's blown out to where, safely blown out off its orbit that is actually in. That's it, point blank. You know what I mean? Just blow it out without actually touching it. It would be no different than I'm trying to give you a scenario. I always like to make connections in scenarios. In reality, a racer, in the Indy's 500, they're all racing. You notice how they bump each other? Well, we're not going to be touching nobody here. Basically, what you do with these racers are in their cars. They're speeding down the track. Basically, you just set off pulse vibrations to cause the driver, almost like wind. How wind, if you're on your road and how wind blows you off the road and takes you off course. Well, that's what we're talking about here. Roadways. We would take and set mines up in those roadways that would explode, not to cause you harm, but to, when they explode, it would cost you to get your car to be blown and you to be blown off the road in another direction where you can't get back on. Once you leave the road, you can't get back on the road that you're currently on. So basically, I'm going to set off an explosion, and just the vibrational waves from my explosion blows your car off the racetrack. And once you get off that track, you can't get back on. You're blown off the track, you're going off in some other direction. You know what I mean? But you can't get back on the track that you were you were once on. Your course of path were derailed, and you're done. You see what I'm saying? The same thing with a train on the railroad tracks. That train, you cause that train to derail off the railroad tracks. Now the train can't get back on the railroad track itself. You cause that train, you set off an explosion, vibrational waves, blows that train off the railroad track. That train goes off and gets stuck somewhere else because it's off the railroad track. It needs the train tracks to be on in order to go on the path that it's going. But now that it's off the railroad tracks, it's stuck somewhere else in limbo. You see what I'm saying, people? It can't get back on the track itself without being helped back on. And this is where I'm at with this, and this is what I'm stating about how these objects can be derailed safely without actually causing them no harm or disrupting them in any way to cause them to break off in pieces. Basically, all you have to do is just either underneath of it, on top of it, or on either side of it, keep setting off carefully placed nuclear explosives that where this object is, they say, I don't know how in the world they say that these objects are traveling at 87,000 miles per hour. That's just beyond my belief and all, because, but anyway, I'm not going to even go there. But these objects are traveling at 70 to 80,000 miles per hour. You set off a nuclear bomb to where this thing, the nuclear bomb is up some ways where science, these eggheads in science, I know exactly what I'm talking about and how to set these bombs off. That it cause this thing, you set it off to where this object is going to hit it. Where, let's say if you want it to go up, So you want the charge to be set off down below it. If you want this object to go up, you set the charge off down here below it, way below it. And by the time this object rides into the wave of it, it's going to be slingshotted up, because by the time those vibration waves from the bomb that's been set off down here, that bomb set up, the vibrational waves from it are coming up underneath of the trajectory path of the asteroid, causing the asteroid to be pushed up, boom, on a different path, and it's going up. Now imagine hitting it back here. That even if you nudge that thing, let's say back here, you only nudge it out of its trajectory path. Let's just say you even just nudged it 3 or 4 feet. That 3 or 4 feet back here would actually equate to what? 400,000 miles up here, because it causes an opening. That would, I mean, because if you nudged it back here, it would cause it to go like this here. So you got to judge on how many feet that it comes. So just nudging it in the feet back here, those feet are magnified by the time they get up here to the planet. You see what I'm saying? So imagine giving it about maybe 3 or 4 nudges back here. You'll have that thing missing our planet by a millennia. But then and again, just like I told you, if you go through all of that back here, you might as well just go ahead and finish it off and be done with it, and just keep blowing it clean out of its trajectory, off track altogether, off of its course, off of its gravitational pull, off of its gravitational highway, clean off of that course altogether to where it can't get back on, and we don't have to worry about it no more. Scientists have all of the time in the world right now to deal with this problem. So why wait for it to happen? You go out and seek and search and look at all of these objects which may be in threat of having a trajectory course of hitting our world. Deal with it out in space. You're already sending these deep space probes out anyway. Deal with that stuff out there instead of waiting for it to come where there, when you have to deal with it in our solar systems, then you have a problem for the simple fact that you're right here in our neighborhood. Deal with it out of our neighborhood. You're doing everything else. Spend some of the taxpayer dollars to do that, and you can actually take and explore space at the same time, but just do it out of harm's way area. You see what I'm saying? And again, about the thing of bringing these bombs out of our atmosphere, you're already doing a bunch of damage to our atmospherical areas by sending these objects. You have over 100,000 pieces of space junk and material that's in orbit with our world right now that we have to worry about coming back and falling back to our planet and busting somebody's house, like destroying, causing massive destruction. So basically, look at safe ways to maneuver these objects. And by the way, doing all the damage that you're doing, all of these space explorations going into space, all of these little holes is being plucked in the atmosphere, Earth's atmospheric areas by all of these space explorers going out. Nobody's doing no repair on this and giving these holes, these cavities, no time to heal. Just imagine just piercing one day and our atmosphere gets sucked into space, or sucked in, or collapses in on itself behind all of these space objects coming off of Earth anyway. So to avoid any further future damage to that, send the bomb out. If you're going to send the bomb out, send it out in pieces, so you don't have to worry about no explosion taking place in our atmosphere by let's call it friendly fire, and we all die that day. You trying to move a bomb into space. Send it out in pieces. The detonator goes one way, the charges go there. All of it. You see, you get the picture. Send the bomb out in pieces in different countries, so we don't have this problem or that concern to worry about. All right. My name is Gerone Wright. I'm going to end that video there. Thank you.